Brady from Keeper for a Cure, and welcome to Season 3 of 10 Questions with a Pro. Today's guest is Michael Nelson. Michael plays as the goalkeeper for Houston Dynamo. Between 2014 and 2017, Michael played for Southern Methodist University, where he played in 76 games and had 27 shutouts. He was also Goalkeeper of the Year in American Athletic Conference 3 times. Boom, that's impressive. Now, Michael is my guest on 10 Questions with a Pro. Thank you for coming on 10 Questions with a Pro. I appreciate you taking time to chat with me.
Absolutely. That was one heck of an intro. I hope I can live up to that for the remainder of the show.
Yeah, I hope so too. Are you ready to jump into these questions?
Absolutely. Can you hear and see me okay? My internet is kind of spotty right now.
You're a little glitchy, but other than
Okay,
that, I can hear you
I'll tell
perfectly.
you what. I'll go to a better Wi-Fi zone so that I give you the best audio possible.
I can hear you perfectly. Your just screen's a little glitchy.
Okay. No problem. I was sitting outside because the weather was nice, but my service isn't great out there, so I'll come inside. Alrighty, let's hop into it.
All right. Why did you become a goalie?
That's a tough question. First, it was out of necessity. I used to play outside back for my youth team, and we only had one goalie at the time, and he broke his arm, I think, when we were like maybe 8 or 9 years old. And so at the time, the coach was like, all right, who's going in? And so I went into goal. I ended up loving it. And that was kind of when I caught the goalkeeping bug, and I just realized that was probably what I needed to be doing. I just really enjoyed the challenge of it just being you against the attacker, doing your best to keep the ball out of the goal, and just kind of the nature of the position just drew me to it.
Yeah. I know everybody's not great when they first start off goalie, but did you think you did pretty good?
It depends how you define good. I think I was effective at keeping the ball out of the goal, which I feel like is the primary responsibility for the goalkeeper. It probably didn't look the best. I definitely needed to work on my technique and positioning and probably the way that I approached it. But in terms of just general effectiveness of stopping the ball, I think I did okay, but it probably wasn't the prettiest thing to watch.
Yeah, but you got to remember, when you first started playing, when I first started playing goalie, I didn't know what I was doing. I was flinging around the goal. I was standing there picking grass. I didn't know what to do.
That's right. And honestly, to this day, I'm still learning new techniques. So it's an ever-changing learning process, and so the learning really never stops. But yeah, everybody starts somewhere, and I think if you can find a kid who's just really, really eager to learn and loves it, it's much easier to teach them. And so I was always very, very eager to learn it, but had a lot of learning to do, and I'm still enjoying learning.
Yep, everybody has a lot of learning to do.
That's right.
What motivates you to keep training hard and maintain being a professional goalkeeper?
Honestly, it's the spirit of competition, not just against other people, but against yourself. I think I try really hard to always make myself better than I was yesterday. So even if it's little things, if you can get 1% better every day, I think over time you'll make huge improvements. I think I set a lot of small goals for myself to accomplish in short amounts of time, rather than, obviously everyone's goal is like, oh, I want to be the national team goalkeeper. I want to win MLS Cup this year. And everybody has these large goals. But I think it's also important to set shorter term intermittent goals. And yeah, I think I just like I said, every day trying to make myself better than I was yesterday.
So you said you had to set up small goals for yourself. Would you mind explaining what goals you had?
Yeah, I think, in training day in, day out with my goalkeeper coach, we kind of identify areas of my game that I'd like to work on, and I can make them a focus. And there's specific stuff we'll do throughout the week. If one week I want to improve my communication and my reading of the game every time we go into 11v11 in training, or we play any small-sided games, I'll make it a focus of mine to really focus on the communication that I'm giving people, giving good information, making sure I'm reading the game well. When we're working on distribution, be it kicking from the floor, throwing from hands, punting from hands, whatever it may be, I'll spend time after practice working on those things, always trying to make my weak foot better. I think it's important for goalkeepers to be able to distribute with both feet, because sometimes you're the last line of defense and your defender will turn around and whack it back to you and expect you to make the clearance. And if he gives it back to your weak foot, you just kind of have to deal with it. And so I think constantly trying to improve all the smaller facets of my game. And it's tough to just say like, hey, I want to be a better goalkeeper and then not focus on one thing specifically. It's like if a basketball player wants to become a better basketball player, they'll need to work on short range shooting, their long shooting, their rebounding, passing, dribbling. Like soccer is the same way, where there's so many aspects of goalkeeping that I think for me, I try to focus on specific parts of it one at a time and improve those. And, gradually they all get better. And then, as a whole goalkeeper, you'll become better. But I think it's important to make small measured kind of efforts to improve the specific parts of your game.
For sure. What steps help you achieve the ability to become a professional level goalkeeper?
These are very good questions, so I'm trying to give you good answers. So I'm thinking. I think, honestly, my desire to improve. Well, first, genetics. I think my dad was really tall, and so that helped me grow. But no, I think the desire to improve and the ability to motivate yourself are essential in whatever you do in life, whether you want to be a professional goalkeeper, whether you want to be a doctor, whether you want to be a lawyer. I think the people who become successful in their professions are people that are able to motivate themselves, and are able to be accountable to themselves and accountable to other people. And so I think I've always been self-aware and realized, the areas of my game that are strengths, the areas that are weaknesses, constantly trying to fortify my strengths and improve the areas where I have a lot of room for improvement. But I think it's a bit similar to my last answer, but I think it's just the desire to always improve and the desire to get the best out of myself. And I think I owe it to myself to approach every day and give my absolute best, because you get out what you put in. And so I think I'm a big believer in training as hard as you can. And so I approach training with that mentality every day and constantly try to make myself better. And so obviously doing that through youth soccer and then doing that through college, I think set me up well for the professional level.
Yeah. So, when you played during college, and would you say you lost a lot of games in college?
I lost a fair share of games. I won more than I lost, but definitely lost several games in there.
So how did you handle losing those college games?
Yeah, I think, losing can be a very difficult thing, but not that accepting it is ever easier. But for me, I always do my very best to prepare mentally and prepare physically for a game. And if I do everything that I can and I'm able to look in the mirror after a game and say, I feel like I gave my all to this game, I feel like I prepared well for this game and the result just didn't go your way. That's just the way that the sport kind of shakes out sometimes. No team is going to win every single game they play. Teams are going to tie, teams are going to lose, and that type of thing happens. When it would be more difficult for me to accept losing is if I felt that I didn't give my best during practice that week, if I felt like I didn't prepare myself well for the game, and so I set myself up to maybe not play my best, and then if that ends up costing the team a goal, it's hard to digest that. And so for me, I'm very at peace with the results. If I prepare well, that's training, that's eating, that's sleeping, that's a lot of things. But if I prepare well and then feel like I'm in a good mental and physical state going into the game, then you just play the game to the best of your ability. And sometimes your team will win, sometimes your team will lose. But if you're able to look yourself in the mirror after the game and say, I did the very best that I could, going into this game and during the game. And sometimes the results will fall your way and sometimes they won't. Goalkeeper can be a cruel position where, sometimes you can play a perfect game and, what happens when they get a penalty kick and the guy puts it in the top corner? Like, you do your best, but what are you going to do? Sometimes you can be in the perfect position and you could still get scored on. And so I think I'm very at peace with that part of the game. Like, I know that this, no matter how well you play, you can always lose the game. You can always win the game. And so I just do everything I can to put myself in a position to succeed and put the team in a position to succeed. And hopefully that's enough. And if it's not, then I gave everything I had.
Yep. That's all you can do too.
That's right. Absolutely. And you just control what you can control because there's going to be 10 other players on the field in front of you, and a lot of the result rides on the performance of those 10 guys as well. And so I think collectively everyone just owes it to each other to give the best they have, and hopefully that's good enough.
For sure. What sacrifices did you make through your life to be able to become a professional goalkeeper?
This is a good one. Honestly, because I practice probably 30 or 40 minutes from home, and I know that's a story for a lot of kids now too, where practices aren't super close. So you come home from school, you have to crank out your homework real quick, then you go to practice. Maybe you still have some left when you get home. You have to finish that, and so I think my schedule was always very congested, and I made as much time as I could to hang out with friends. But the biggest sacrifice was probably areas of my social life. I think, I still had some very good friends and spent a lot of quality time with them, but it requires a lot of you to make sure that you always, you're training to keep yourself in good shape. You're, attending games, performing well in games. You're traveling out of town to play in tournaments and whatnot. And so you do miss out on a lot of things, but I think the game is so rewarding, and I've still got such great friendships that I really wouldn't trade it. And so in the end, it doesn't look like a sacrifice, but looking back, I did miss out on a lot of things, a lot of events during high school and whatnot for soccer. But I wouldn't trade it for the world. I think it led me to a great place, and I've still got great friends from my younger days as well. And so it all worked out very well for me.
It's great to hear. So you said you made a lot of sacrifices. Were those sacrifices worth it?
Absolutely. I think if you're pursuing something that you really, really want, you'll make sacrifices along the way, but they'll be more than worth it. And so I knew I really wanted to pursue soccer and see how far I could go with it. And so, setting aside time to make myself a better player, it didn't really feel like a sacrifice at the time necessarily. Like you could classify it as one, because I had to forego maybe going to hang out with my friends, maybe doing this, doing that. But I think, I just love playing soccer. And so it didn't really feel like a burden to me at the time. And I just love playing. So you could look at it as a sacrifice, but it was absolutely worth it, because I think it helped me become a better player, a better person, and definitely put me in the position I am today.
That's awesome. So, you said you made a bunch of sacrifices hanging out with friends and stuff. Everybody does, and I've made a bunch of sacrifices too. Hanging out with friends, or go training in the backyard, going to the extra practice, or going to the mall. It's some of them are hard, and you want to have fun, but it's all going to pay off in the end.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think, it's, you make a lot of sacrifices, even outside of soccer. I think life is full of prioritizing what's important to you, and then finding the best way for you to maximize kind of those priorities. And so if soccer, school, your family, your friends are your four main priorities, I think human beings all have it within us to find ways to satisfy all of those things. And so I think, those are four things that are really important to me: my family, my friends, soccer, there's more than four things, my health, all these things. And so I find ways to make sure that they all get the attention that they need, because you don't want to stretch yourself too thin toward one thing, and it's important to find balance in your life. But I think sacrifices are kind of a necessity when you make priorities like that.
Yeah. So you said you didn't make. You said you never regretted making those sacrifices. So would you really say they were sacrifices or easy decisions?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. It felt like an easy decision. There are, there's some maybe if you talk to your dad, I saw him like setting up some of your equipment earlier. He probably has made sacrifices for you in his life, and I bet if you asked him, he'd say it doesn't feel like a sacrifice at all, because he cares so much about you and wants to take great care of you. And so it's probably an easy decision for him to do the things that he does to provide for you and take care of you. And there are a lot of things like that in my life too. I think soccer is the most obvious one, and we're talking about it right now, but it feels like an easy decision when it's something that you really, really care about, and something that you want to, take care of for a long time. And so I've always kind of kept my eyes on the path ahead of me, and it just feels like the only way, really. So I would definitely say it's more of an easy decision for me.
Yeah. It's probably going to be an easier decision for me too, because when I grow up and I'm going to have to make those sacrifices, I just got to remember to stay in it and go to college and go to the pro level.
Absolutely, man. I think it's so great to have the vision that you have and know that little things can change along the way, but always be able to adapt and kind of keep your mind on kind of the goals that you have for yourself and figure out ways to put yourself in that position. And life will throw you some curveballs and you'll have to adapt. But I think if you have a strong vision like you've got, you'll always be able to kind of keep yourself on a good path.
Yeah. If you weren't a professional goalie, what else would you want to be?
This is a funny story, actually. So in college, I had a job after my third year here in Houston working at a bank. I was doing investment banking. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but it requires a lot of long hours. I worked probably 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. most days because I got my degree in finance at school. And so they offered me a job in Houston, and I wasn't sure if I was going to sign professionally or not. And so I accepted that job to start right after I graduated. I graduated and was drafted by Houston and got signed. And so I had to make the call to the company and quit before I even started my first day. That wasn't the most fun call in the world, but needless to say, that's probably what I would be doing if I hadn't started playing at this point for whatever reason post retirement. I hope that's many years from now. Whenever I'm done playing, I don't really see myself venturing back into the finance world. I think if I had started as a 22-year-old fresh out of college, I'd probably still be doing that. But at this point, now that I've had a taste for not working in the office that many hours in a day, I don't know if I'd be able to go back to doing that. So I would love to, maybe when I'm done playing, get into coaching at the high school or college level. I think I'd love to stay around the game and help young men like yourself become better players, better people, and lead them down their paths. And I think that'd be a really exciting and rewarding thing to do.
Probably would. If soccer doesn't work out for me, there's two things I'd want to be. I really would want to be like an engineer or a soccer coach, because goalies are the second coach on the field. One of my favorite parts of goalie is just getting to scream at everybody.
Yeah, it's a very unique role too, because you're constantly looking forward and you can see the entire field. You know, sometimes like the midfielders, the game is all around them. The forwards, the game is often behind them. The defenders, for the most part, the game's in front of them. But us, like, the whole game is constantly in front of us. And so you do have a very unique perspective where you can see the entire field. And it does help you learn about all the different aspects of the game. And so I've spoken to a lot of goalkeepers that feel the same way, that you learn to think the game and see the game a certain way because you get to watch it almost as a coach for long stretches of the game.
Yeah. What have you done on the field and off the field that you're most proud of?
I think on the field, I'm very proud that I was able to fulfill my goal of becoming a professional. I think my odds weren't super great. I didn't actually get a single Division I collegiate offer out of high school. And so I attended SMU as a walk-on, which is basically where they're not able to offer you a scholarship on the team, but they essentially allow you to try out. And so my freshman year, I was a walk-on and just tried out for the team and ended up becoming a 4-year starter. And so my odds probably weren't great. If you look at the percentage of college walk-ons that become MLS players, it's probably a very, very low percentage. And so I'm proud of myself for finding a way to do that, but I'm also very grateful to the people I had around me that enabled me to do that as well. I definitely could not have done it on my own, and I'm grateful to SMU for the opportunity that they gave me and the friends that I was able to make there. They'll be lifelong friends, so I have a lot of gratitude to those people as well. Off the field, that's a difficult question. I'm proud of a lot of things off the field. I guess I try to do as much as I can. You know, through the Dynamo, we have a lot of community outreach programs that let us go, you know, visit younger kids in hospitals or maybe provide meals to, you know, like underprivileged families and things like that. And so I take pride in trying to make myself available for as much of those events as I possibly can. I think I'm incredibly lucky to be in the position that I'm in, and have a lot of time on my hands to be able to help people that do need help like that. And so I think this is another one of those things where it feels like an easy decision. But yeah, I get a lot of gratitude out of that, and I'm proud to be able to do that. But yeah, that's probably off the field what I'm most proud of doing.
That's cool. I hope when I grow up and I become, if hopefully I become a pro, I hope I join a team who helps children or helping giving food to a homeless shelter because I love helping back.
Absolutely, man. Giving is a great thing, and it's one of those things that's extremely rewarding for all people involved. I think people enjoy giving, and people like being given things as well. And so if you've got the time and the resources to help people, it's a wonderful thing to do.
Yep. What goalies or soccer players inspired you to want to be a professional goalkeeper?
Let's see. My favorite soccer player when I was younger was not actually a goalkeeper. It was Fernando Torres back when he played for Liverpool, then went to Chelsea. Then was at he had kind of a weird year where he went to several places. He's been at AC Milan, went to Japan for a little bit, Atletico Madrid. But I think he was my favorite player. I loved watching Liverpool when I was younger. And he and Steven Gerrard had just an awesome connection and scored some amazing goals for that club. And so he was the first player that I just really, really enjoyed watching. I loved the tenacity that he played the game with. Just his like raw ability to score was just amazing. And so I didn't really have a goalkeeper when I was young that I watched and studied necessarily, which is kind of odd because I feel like a lot of younger goalkeepers kind of have a goalkeeper that they try to model their game after. But I just played the best I could, the best I knew how, and I didn't necessarily have an older goalkeeper that I modeled my game after. But I do a lot more studying of goalkeepers now at the professional level. I constantly try to learn. I think you can learn something new from everybody you meet. And so anyone I'm lucky enough to train with, or anytime I watch a game on TV, I'm constantly watching it kind of through the lens of trying to learn something. And so obviously there's the international goalkeepers. You've got your Manuel Neuers, Ter Stegen, Alisson, Ederson. There's so many good ones. And then even within MLS, if I'm watching a game, I'll watch some of the other guys and pick up stuff from their game. And so I think constantly trying to learn is a great thing and a very valuable tool.
Yeah. Because you're probably still learning stuff. I'm learning stuff every day. So like you said, 1% better every day. So training every day, you get 1% better. Training every day for a year, you get 365% better. It's all those little things.
That's what I'm talking about. I feel like I might become a teacher after I play. You're already getting my lessons back to me. This is fantastic. But yeah, I think approaching every day 1% better, 365% better in a year, that would be incredible if every year I got 3 times better than I was when I started the year. That may or may not be the case, but I feel like if you don't try, then you won't even make it possible for yourself. But right on, dude. You nailed it.
Thanks. What are your favorite gloves to wear in net and why?
I'll have to say Storelli. I'm currently under contract with Storelli, and so I am not allowed to say anybody else. No, I'm kidding. But I wear Storelli as my glove, and then I also wear some of their protective gear in training. Some of the the underwear that have the pads on the hip, and then some that have like the undershirt that's got it on the shoulders and ribs. That's important for me because our bodies do take a beating kind of on the day in, day out training. And so I protect my body as well as I can. You only get one of them in your life, so you've got to treat it pretty well. So I try to take care of it as well as I can. And I mean, you know how it can go. You can have some rough days. You play on a field that's a little hard. It's got more dirt than grass, and there's a couple rocks in here and there. So it can be, you'll get your bumps and bruises along the way. But yeah, I wear Storelli gear to kind of protect my body, and then I've been really happy with the gloves too. I think they've got a good balance of durability and grip, and they're what I'm looking for. So I'm really happy with it.
I think I did a glove review with Storelli. Do they have like do they have like leather in the fingers on some of the gloves?
Maybe on the new models. I haven't tried all of them. They've released some new ones within the last year, but they are adding like some of the ones that are meant to be more of like a cold weather glove do have like fleece insulation and things like that. But yeah, they've got it all going on. Glove technology has come a long way in the last 10 years, and I'll see certain pairs where I'm like, I didn't even know this was possible. But yeah, I like more of a classic glove, just kind of a tight fitting, comfortable glove. But there's gloves with all sorts of stuff going on these days.
For sure. Is there a save that you made in your mind that really sticks out?
I think actually my first official game with the Dynamo was against Minnesota United. Um, and in that game, must have been maybe the 58th, 59th minute. They had a corner kick, and it got flicked on, I think, at the near post. Our defender at the back post was kind of surprised when it bounced in front of him and it came off his stomach, I think, and then set down like right at maybe 4 yards. And it was just me and their forward, and it was bouncing. And he just hit kind of this side ball. It didn't catch it super well, so it went into the ground first and then kind of popped up. And I just made this quick reaction save with my right hand and was able to tip it over the bar. And it's one of the best saves I've ever made, and it was just a great coincidence that it happened in my first game ever, so it helped me get off kind of on the right foot. But it was funny because I woke up the next morning and had a bunch of messages from my friend, and I didn't even realize, but it was on the Sports Center top 10. It was like number 2 or 3. And I was like, wow, I'm going to have a tough time topping that. So I got off to a good start, but set the bar very high.
It sounds like it. Wow, you said 2 or 3?
Yeah, somewhere in there.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, it's one of those saves where your instincts kind of take over, and maybe you don't even realize what you've done until after the game. You go look at the video and you go, oh, wow, that was a pretty good save. In the moment, I was just so focused on the ball, I didn't even realize what my body was doing or what my hands were doing. It was just pure instincts and reactions.
Yeah, some of those saves you make, you're sometimes like, how did I save that? And then you're looking at game footage after, and some of them you're thinking, dang, that was a good save.
Yeah, there are some that feel like they're much better than they end up looking, and then there's others where they look even better than you thought. Like there's some saves where I'm like, wow, that was a heck of a save, and then I see video and I'm like, never mind, it looked pretty average. But then there's some where it turns out to be an amazing save, and like I said, your instincts just kind of took over, so maybe you didn't realize what was going on in that moment, but your mind said, let's keep this ball out of the goal by any means necessary, and you end up doing it.
Yeah. What advice would you give a young goalkeeper like me that wants to play at the professional level?
I'd say just embrace the challenges. There's, there are going to be ups and downs along the way. It's not going to be a perfectly smooth, every day is better than yesterday. There's going to be great games. There's going to be some games you're not super happy with, but I'd say just embrace the challenge and embrace the opportunities to get better. I think now that I've been on several teams, and I think the teams where I look back and have really fond memories, or where the teams just had a great sense of respect for each other and trained really well every day. We all wanted each other to do well. We all pushed each other to get better. And we all embraced trying to get better. And so I think, it won't be a perfectly smooth ride, but I think people that kind of have the long-term sight of kind of seeing the top of the mountain on the climb up there will know that, the climb will not always be perfect. There's going to be moments where you have to stop. There's going to be moments where you go down before you go up again. But I think constantly having that vision to know that, you've set goals out for yourself, what you need to do to get there. And if you stick to your plan, you'll put yourself in a great position to do so. And so I'd say don't be discouraged by small failures. I think oftentimes you'll fail before you succeed. And so it can take maybe two to three tries before something works out. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, and this almost applies to other things in life too, man. It's obviously it's most relevant with soccer because that's what we're talking about right now. But I think life is full of unexpected things. And I think if you're able to kind of roll with the punches and keep perspective on things, you'll always put yourself in a great position.
Yeah. Thanks for the advice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you have any questions for me before we end this interview?
Sure. Let me flip this on you. What is your favorite thing about goalkeeping?
Probably making that really big one-hand diving save.
That is a very, very tough feeling to beat. I'm right there with you. That's a great one.
Even though it doesn't happen very often, when it does happen, you're like, Yeah, I just made
Oh
that.
yeah,
I just made
you
that
remember it
save.
forever. You remember it forever too. Sometimes it'll be 6 months in between making saves like that, but you remember them clear as day because they felt so good.
Yeah.
Here's another one for you. What do you find to be the most challenging part of goalkeeping?
Um, Probably losing. I have a really tough time of getting over the fact that I just lost and my emotions get the best of me and my worst enemy. I get in my head and it makes me upset.
Yeah, I understand that you're a competitor. Competitive people always want to win, and it's when you're that way, it's very unnatural to accept defeat. So I'm right there with you. I When I was younger, I was the same way. I wanted to win in everything I did, whether it was soccer, whether it was tic tac toe, whatever it was. Everything I did, I always wanted to win, and I was probably kind of a sore loser when I was really really young. But I've gotten much better at it. But it's still, you never want to get used to losing, and you never will, and you never should. But yeah, it can be a very difficult thing. But I feel you, especially when you're a competitor like that. You always want to win.
So, would you say losing gets easier as you get older?
No, I wouldn't say losing gets easier. I feel I just have a better process mentally to digest it. I think losing is always a difficult thing. It's it's a very bad feeling. I don't even really know how to describe it, but I think one of the questions I answered earlier, I've just developed kind of a mental process to be able to deal with it much better than I used to. I think back when I was younger, if I lost, it would always just be like, "What the heck? Like this went wrong. This guy didn't do that." Blah blah. Like, and it would just, you get in your own head. You blame yourself. Maybe you blame someone else, and it can just turn into a very difficult thing to process. But I think now, like I mentioned, I control everything that I can control, and that's, you can control your preparation, you can control kind of your focus and things like that. Um, and so I try to do everything that I have complete control over to the best of my ability, and hopefully that's enough to help us win. And if I gave everything I had and we still lose the game, that's the way life goes sometimes. But I think it's important to be honest with yourself, because I'll get very frustrated if we lose and I feel like there were things that I could have done better. During the game, before the game, if I could have communicated better, could have been more focused on this and would have been in a better position. Those types of things frustrate me, but I think just controlling everything that you can control and kind of dealing with whatever the results may be, it does not make losing easier, but it makes processing losing easier. So that's an important distinction.
Okay. I hope I'll get better with losing down the road because that's a really big struggle for me.
Yeah, and it's tough to think of it that way because you're like, oh, I don't want to like just like get better at losing, but it's it's one of those things where I think the people that have the ability to deal with failures, you'll often find you're able to turn them into successes, and kind of you learn from failure, and it helps you succeed down the road. And so I think always trying to take lessons from failure, and always, if you do lose, maybe look at the reasons why you lost. And sometimes it won't even be the goalkeeper's fault. Sometimes the game, someone just scores an amazing goal and you guys lose 1-0. Like that happens all the time. But the team as a whole and the goalkeeper individually, there are always opportunities to learn through games that you lose, and you work as hard as you can to correct those things, and you try your very best to win the next game, because at that point the loss is behind you. You can't change the result, but what you can control is your approach to the next game, and not making the same mistakes twice, and trying to learn from failure that you encounter. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah. Any other questions?
You asked some great ones, and so I feel like I need to reciprocate and get you some very good ones. Do you have other sports that have inspired you outside of soccer,
Um,
or
Not
or
really.
athletes outside of soccer that inspire you?
Um, I don't think there's any athletes, but I used to snowboard a lot when I was younger. So I watch snowboarding a lot, and sometimes I want to go snowboard. Like that's one thing I really want to do, and work harder in soccer. So snowboarding is probably one other thing I look up to.
Yeah, snowboarding is a cool one too. It's actually kind of similar to goalkeeper in the fact that it's a very individual thing, and it's kind of you against yourself. Sometimes I feel like a lot of snowboarders, they compete against themselves more than they compete against other people, and that's you can find yourself doing that as a goalkeeper because sometimes you'll be the one that has to motivate yourself to work on certain things or to continually try to improve. And so it's an interesting similarity. You seem like someone who enjoys a good challenge.
Yeah, I do. Any other questions before we wrap this up?
Another question, I guess. How long have you been doing the keeper for a cure? I think I ran into you maybe in Tucson like 3 seasons ago, and you gave me a sticker, and I actually still have it on my laptop.
Oh, really?
This one?
Um,
Is that it?
Does it say keeper for a cure on it?
My apologies. It says keepers for kids. I apologize.
Oh. No,
I
you're fine.
apologize. I thought that said cure on it. My question
No.
remains the same. How long have you been doing this for?
I think it's been like 2.5 years since we first started Keeper for a Cure.
Okay. What was your inspiration behind starting it?
I had a lot of family members that had breast cancer. So, I was asking my dad more about it, and he said 2 of my family members died from breast cancer. So, I didn't want anybody to go through that experience. So, I just tried to raise as much money as I possibly could to help women out who need it.
That's extremely admirable. I think that's a great mentality, and I think you've got a great heart and a lot of motivation to help people. So that's a great thing, and I have a lot of admiration for that.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I think that's all I've got. If you want to send me maybe a link or something like that to be able to donate, I'd actually love to contribute to it as well, if you don't mind.
Well, Keeper for a Cure ended this past October.
Okay.
So this season we're doing an anti-bullying campaign. So
Okay.
if you wanted to help out with that, so get a piece of paper, write your name on it, and 2 hashtags. Keep Pledge Against Bullying and Keeper for a Cure. And then if you want to do that, post it on Instagram and tag me in it so I can share it.
Okay. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that information.
You're welcome.
I will add, this is not really a question, but you're one of the most well-spoken and polite and respectful young men I've gotten to speak to. And so I think you'll just want to tell you that you will find success no matter what you do in life, whether you're a professional goalkeeper or a professional snowboarder or engineer, or whatever it was. There were a few other things you mentioned earlier, but I'm very impressed by you. And I think you've got an extremely kind heart, and I think you're on a great path. So it was a pleasure meeting you, and I really appreciate you having me.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Yeah,
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Michael, for coming on 10 Questions with a Pro. I really do appreciate you taking time to chat with me. This season, Keeper for a Cure is taking a stand against bullying. We are asking you to stand against us and help us meet our goal of 1,300 pledges against bullying. Go to my Instagram page, BK87_goalie, to learn how you can help pledge against my bullying. For information about Keeper for a Cure, please go to www.keeperforacure.com. Also, see our past interview you can visit on our YouTube page. Just search Keeper for a Cure. If you want to listen to the past interviews, you can listen to our podcast on Spotify or iTunes. Just search Keeper for a Cure, and also to remember to subscribe and like. Thank you, Michael, for coming on 10 Questions with the Pro this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
All right. Bye. Take care.